He ruled Guinea for a quarter of a century, from the country's independence in 1958 until his death in 1984. Ahmed Sékou Touré was the face of Guinea. President of the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence from France, he was one of the continent's leading figures in Pan-Africanism and decolonisation. But he also mercilessly hunted down his opponents. Amnesty International estimates that 50,000 people were murdered during his 25 years in power. Today, though, 40 years after his death, the father of Guinean independence is enjoying a major resurgence in popularity amongst West African youth in search of a hero. On top of that, officials from the wider region's coup regimes regularly cite him as a model, a figure of resistance to the West. In his own country, General Mamadi Doumbouya, in power since a coup in Guinea in 2021, has also heaped praise on him. But all this ignores the dark side of Sékou Touré. In the capital, Conakry, traces of the atrocities committed by his regime are gradually fading. And Sékou Touré's victims fear that his crimes will be forgotten and history will repeat itself. Well, 40 years after his death, Sarah Sakho revisits Guinea for France 24.
We're in the Nongo cemetery. According to testimonies, it's a mass grave of victims of the First Republic. People were buried here.
Amadou Tounkara is the son of a Camp Boiro victim, the most notorious concentration camp during the Ahmed Sékou Touré regime in Guinea. Amadou's father was a primary school teacher, trade unionist, and one of the first campaigners for decolonisation in Guinea.
Here lie the Guineans who fought for independence, the companions of independence.
Amadou was only 9 years old when his father was arrested and executed without due process. Like many victims of the regime, he was buried anonymously.
There are graves here, but we don't know who exactly is buried.
Amadou recalls an era of pervasive paranoia where accusations of treachery and arbitrary arrest were commonplace.
President Sékou Touré's system of governance was one of permanent conspiracy. Whenever he had difficulties, he would devise schemes to traumatize the population and prevent them from taking action. He had people killed, and everyone knew they were at Camp Boiro. These conspiracies were supposed to stop the population from revolting.
According to estimates, 50,000 people were killed by the regime over 26 years ago. To this day, a lack of archived information and personal identification means families haven't been able to mourn. To keep their memory alive, Amadou is fighting to exhume these abandoned sites, working with the Association of Victims of Camp Boiro, who've spent years mapping these mass graves.
So there are mass graves at Nongo, 1 and 2, then the mass graves at Camp Boiro, Simbaya, Sengoya, west of the firing range, the mass grave at Gadaoundou. Today, the Association of Victims of Camp Boiro has listed 14 mass graves throughout Guinea.
A dark chapter that marked the early days of an independent Guinea. But 40 years on, and memory has become hazy, as one generation's executioner becomes another's hero. Ahmed Sékou Touré is becoming popular again in Conakry. The music of Lucini Keita, otherwise known as Looney, is proof of this trend. After 14 years in Canada, in 2017, the rapper moved back to Conakry with the hope of becoming, in his words, the Sékou Touré of Guinean rap.
It's fair to say rap lay dormant until I arrived. So I created this craze where everyone wants to say, I am Guinean rap. If you draw a parallel with Sékou Touré, he liberated Guinea, I liberated Guinean rap. That's it. That's how I see myself.
The rapper has even called his latest album Sékou Touré, a reference to the ideas he associates with the country's first leader, which he believes are more relevant than ever.
All those in power are talking about Pan-Africanism. Who spoke of Pan-Africanism years ago? Sékou Touré. When you look at Guinea itself, there's a revival of this national identity, of this pride, of saying we can build Africa without the help of anyone else.
The rapper's latest release speaks to his determination to succeed in Guinea, despite the difficulties of life. Complete with designer clothes and sunglasses, Sékou Touré is yet again another inspirational symbol.
I want to tell people that, yes, in life there are inevitably difficult moments, but you can change things. Just because you're born poor doesn't mean you have to die poor. In fact, I got this courage and determination to succeed from Sékou Touré. It's telling people that when you fight, you can get what you want.
A sentiment that resonates in Conakry. Since its release in May, clips from the album have already had several 100,000 views. So how is it that Ahmed Sékou Touré has become an icon for a generation that was born after his death? Perhaps the answer lies within the walls of this public institution, in the centre of Conakry. It was here in 1958 that Ahmed Sékou Touré made a speech that left a lasting impression on Guinea and put the leader on the historical map.
We prefer poverty in freedom to wealth in slavery. This is a quote from President Sékou Touré's speech when he received General de Gaulle in Conakry.
Touré turned down de Gaulle's offer of self-government and membership in a new French community. A few months later, Guinea became the first African country to gain full independence from France. A vivid memory for many.
If you were to call it a myth, you wouldn't be wrong. If you were to ask me about what this speech means 65 years on, it still has its value, because independence is a value Guineans are still very attached to.
A seminal episode in Guinea's national history, and one that is making a comeback in public discourse. Since the 2021 coup d'etat, Touré's image has changed. In contrast to previous governments that rejected his legacy, the new authorities have paid tribute to the first independent leader, including renaming Conakry's airport after him. The junta are also gradually blocking access to places typically symbolic of the old regime's abuses, starting with Camp Boiro.
Camp Boiro is currently under the authority of the president, so you need authorization from the presidency to access it. For 3 years, the gates of Camp Boiro have been closed to us.
This is a blow for members of the association, already struggling to commemorate their loved ones. The camp is where they would typically organize their remembrance events.
The idea was to come to the Boiro camp to say our prayers and reflect. The fact that Camp Boiro is close to us has a big impact on us. There's no place where we can come to pay our respects. This is where our parents are buried.
Although the doors may be shut at Camp Boiro, they've reopened at the Bellevue residence, the historic home of Sékou Touré. It was hastily restored by the junta when they came to power in 2021.
That day when the decree was passed, we saw the population shouting with joy. Going into the courtyard, the neighbors filled the courtyard dancing and singing.
André is the adopted daughter of Sékou Touré. She is now the guardian of the family residence. She also takes care of the former president's widow. The residence paints a picture of an inspirational leader and Pan-African hero, with no trace of the abuses committed by the regime.
He obviously had a lot of admirers who understood him and supported him. And that's why things worked. Not easily, but they worked all the same.
As he said at the start of independence, that as long as other countries were not independent, Guinea would not be happy. So he fought for the other countries. He represented their hope. He was also their leader and a model for them.
History is also being rewritten by the PDJ-RDA, the political party historically founded by Sékou Touré.
Hello, everyone.
Since the coup, they have held their weekly meetings at the Bellevue residence. Disbanded for several years after Sékou Touré's death, the political party now enjoys more favourable treatment from the military in power, and they intend to make a comeback.
Our primary aim is to bring the PDG to power. That's our ambition, and that's what we're going to do.
According to the party, the crimes attributed to Sékou Touré are nothing but inventions by his political enemies.
There have always been misrepresentations made to smear the PDG-RDA. You talk about Camp Boiro, but Camp Boiro only exists in people's heads.
For the revolution, down with imperialism, down with neocolonialism, eternal peace with President Sékou Touré. For the revolution.
The resurgence of Sékou Touré has emerged from the turmoil following Guinea's recent coup d'etat. In a region increasingly marked by political upheavals, the legacy of the father of Guinean independence is resonating with people far beyond the nation's borders.
It is our duty to intervene to maintain peace between African states.
The Ahmed Sékou Touré International Foundation is celebrating its 10th anniversary. To honour his legacy, the organisation hopes to play the role of mediator between the regional institution ECOWAS and the countries of the Sahel that have been gripped by rebellions for months.
Sékou Touré was a unifier, so in his name we will be able to unite the whole of Africa.
Once again, the regime's abuses and its countless victims are glaringly absent from the rhetoric. To avoid an erasure of the past, the Camp Boiro Victims Association has decided to take action in court.
Hello, Counselor. How are you? How's the office?
Last May, the association launched an appeal with the Supreme Court in the hope of overturning the renaming of Conakry Airport, a decree that was issued by the head of the junta, Mamadi Doumbouya.
He can't make this decision. He's a coup leader. He has no right to make this decision for us. You can't restore the powerful and the strong, then turn around and disrespect the memory of the victims. That's why this appeal is necessary.
We too are Guineans like everyone else. Sékou Touré wronged us. He eradicated our relatives, so he doesn't deserve the name of Conakry Airport.
The legal proceedings have sparked a fervent response across the country.
Bonjour la famille. Comment ça va?
Despite the obstacles, Amadou is doing what he can to honour the memory of his father and for his country's future.
When people know what happened in the past, it can raise awareness. It can be a wake-up call for people. It can serve as an alarm for society when there's a drift, and then lead to precautions being taken.
Learn from history to avoid repeating it. A message that resonates more than ever with the families of Camp Boiro victims, as hopes for accountability and democracy fade under the region's coup-driven regimes.
Sarah Sakho revisiting Guinea for France 24. Well, that's all from this week's edition. You can catch it again, of course, on our website on france24.com. All the editions on there for you. More news coming up very shortly. Thanks for watching.